Global warming is the idea that the Earth's atmosphere is getting warmer at a rapid rate unseen before. Upon careful examination of the evidence, we believe that global warming is a real and serious problem.
We had a Skype interview with Dr. Mark Serez, the director of National Snow and Ice Data Center. This is his take on global warming.
We are seeing the ocean's heat content increasing, so global warming is happening. And it is very clear now that the primary reason for this warming that we've seen for the past 100 years, 150 years, is due to us, is due to human activities.
What evidence do we have that shows global warming is real? NASA helped by pointing out that global sea level rose about 17 centimeters, 6.7 inches in the last century. The rate in last decade, however, nearly doubled that of the last century.
All three major global surface temperature reconstructions show that the Earth has warmed since 1880. Most of this warming has occurred since the 1970s, with the 20 warmest years have occurred since 1981, and with all the 10 of the warmest years occurring in the past 12 years.
Even though in the 2000s witnessed a solar output decline resulting in unusually deep solar minimum in 2007 to 2009, surface temperatures continue to increase.
Data from NASA's Gravity Recovery and Climate Experiment show Greenland lost 36 to 60 cubic miles of ice per year between 2002 and 2006. Antarctica lost about 36 cubic miles of ice between 2002 and 2005.
These first two graphs from the Vostok ice core will help us in a bit.
These two graphs show the similarity of temperature and CO2 levels from the past 400,000 years. Notice the similarity? The average lower temperature is just an exaggerated version of the CO2 concentration. What is so significant about this? CO2 alongside H2O and methane are some of the most influential greenhouse gases.
I can show you how carbon dioxide affects Earth's climate using this heat-sensitive or infrared camera which is purring away here, and a candle, this glass tube which is hooked up to this rather large canister of carbon dioxide gas. Now if I light the candle, you'll see that on the monitor the camera picks up the flame perfectly. Look at that, the hottest parts are glowing white. Now watch what happens when I turn on the carbon dioxide.
Just keep your eye on the flame.
The gas is invisible, so you don't see it fill in the tube, but as it comes in, you should see the candle start to disappear. There it goes. Look at that. What's happening is that the carbon dioxide in the tube is effectively trapping the heat.
The candle's warmth no longer reaches the camera. Instead, it's absorbed by the carbon dioxide inside the tube. That's exactly how carbon dioxide works in the atmosphere. It traps heat, preventing it from escaping into space.
Just a little CO2 can do that. Think of what would happen if the whole Earth were surrounded by CO2. According to NASA, Venus's thick and toxic atmosphere is made up mostly of carbon dioxide and nitrogen. The greenhouse gases allowed some of the heat from the sun to pass, and after that the CO2 just wouldn't let it leave. If global warming continues, this is what will happen.
Okay, now you're wondering, but the CO2 levels in the graph went up and down and up and down. So we are safe, right? Wrong. The next graph from NASA will show you something kind of sobering. Temperature is exaggerated by CO2, remember? So imagine adding the average temperature to here. The problem isn't the Earth getting warmer. It's the Earth getting too warm too fast. But what will happen in a warmer world? Dr. Serez gave us an idea of just what.
We expect that the sea level will, by the year 2100, rise by about 3 feet relative to today. Now, it doesn't sound like much, But we're talking about some of these low-lying coastal areas where it could be a big issue, like Miami. Okay, a lot of Miami is within roughly 3 feet of sea level. Agriculturalism, that's the sort of change the American redbeds. For example, out here in Colorado, where we grow a lot of corn, wheat, sugar beets, soybeans, things like that, because our climate change is such that we can't grow these sorts of things. Another one that hits close to home here in Colorado is our water resources. Most of our water that we use in Colorado, the surface water, comes from the mountains, right? Because we have snow that falls in the winter and it's stored there in the mountain, and then in the spring it melts, and we get that water in our reservoirs, pipe it down into the front range. Well, that infrastructure that we built with dams and aqueducts and all that is based on this idea, or this knowledge that you're going to have a nice winter snowpack that develops, and then it will melt nicely in the spring and we can use it. What's going to happen in the future is you're going to see less snow. You're going to see more rain instead of snow. Okay, so that starts to put this whole infrastructure at risk. So that's going to come closer to home.
A typhoon in the Philippines that hit just recently killed 3,621 people of November of 2013.
Dr. Serez pointed out the natural disasters would be on the rise, and he has appeared to be right. So a warmer Earth killed 3,621 people and left thousands more homeless. What is happening? Why is CO2 on the rise? Well, it turns out the U.S. just killed their fair share of 905 and a quarter people. The U.S. contributes about a quarter of the CO2 emissions every year.
USA's CO2 emissions are supposed to grow 1.5% between 2005 and 2020. The Kyoto Treaty, which is designed to reduce global CO2 emissions, is not signed by the US or Australia, which is another high emissions country. Actually allows Iceland to increase emissions by 10%, and Russia has to reduce theirs by 0. China is the second largest emitter behind USA and are exempt from the treaty. Natural problems aren't the only ones, and social problems should rise too.
Food supply will decrease, rising sea levels will force refugees to higher elevations, and a growing population isn't so efficient crammed into a small area with little food. Although we are making it seem like global warming is something the world has done nothing to help, that is a lie. For a while, the U.S. encouraged automobile manufacturers to make many vehicles zero emission. California even created the ZEV, Zero Emission Vehicles mandate, which required car makers to have 20% of their creations be zero emission.
The mandate was eventually revoked by the California Air Resources Board. Part of it was described in a documentary entitled Who Killed the Electric Car? This documentary shows how car makers sued cars and how Alan Lloyd helped them get their way, eventually showing how the electric car was destroyed by a conspiracy. This led to returning pollution up to its natural, totally unsustainable level.
Their hope.
Yes.
Where does this hope lie?
In the hands of the countries not willing to halt global warming.
But there is a chance.
As Dr. Serez puts it at the end of our interview, it is a global problem and will require a global solution.